Hello, Americans, YouTubers across the world. I put a link to a AI Picari's, I think it's called, animated or artificial intelligence presidents. The presidents must have knowledge of it because they have in the end of that video. I put the link to it. The the, the President Trump cartoon version of him, like in other words, says that or picture in other words says that inside of a video game, they're playing a video game, President Trump and President Obama and President Biden's in this one, and they have other ones that President Bush is in it, in that, and I believe one with President Clinton, and these are presidents slash chiefs. No, but this is distinct from founders. James Madison and the plural founders directed us to understand why and how they were plural founders, but they didn't have the security to let us know their names. They directed us to understand how and why they had to counter extort, force people, dictate to them to break the rules of the torture, extortion, slavery method against every single person, but only to an extent. Because they're no everyone were only allowed to an extent. Otherwise, they would have been sentenced. And then still, they had to hide that, and they had to make everyone put fake motives and leave out how the breaching method was part of their motive. Slash S. The breaching method only permitted slavery rolls, even northern colonies and southern colonies, and then America's founders were born. You guys were not supposed to refer to our presidents slash chiefs as founders, and you were not supposed to pretend they had free speech. You were not supposed to pretend it's debatable. If someone said every single database was criminally foreign influenced, every single record was fake. In the news, multi front, same self value sequence shifts, self value collusion slash S, blaming other things, others ourselves, forcing it, and they're sentencing for the breaching method, for all the roles in it. If anyone brings up, you know, things outside of internationally monitored conversations, outside the sense and sensibilities of all those natures of overt criminal enterprise, private ones, terrorists, international companies, all collusion, news, all collusions at the same time. That's what Witch Trials about. Next to Webb House, now renamed the Webb Stevens Museum. American founding locations across the country. They have and have had other communicated for them for those locations, and we're supposed to be communicating for them. But like about James Madison's plan. You guys have the whole understanding of what made the Declaration of Independence, and you guys can't even explain how and why they had to leave even slavery entrenched. You don't vote on slavery. You guys have our founders framed under the guise of defending them because you were child abused at countries A through Z, at campuses A through Z. We're the last ones to fall this too, but we fell too. And there are proofs that Native Americans, even if they weren't one of the ones that were in on that group, that we're directed to understand, were unnamed. The rest we were directed to understand at the same time, and nature shows us. Like James Madison's plan. And us directed to get the Constitution on a bridge. They only had the means to do that because of Native Americans, too. But regardless, they should not have had that replaced so long and pretended debatable. See the names of the people, the sciences, every single one of them, including the law, including the sports, the arts, including the military. You guys had other communicators about the Civil War. James Madison's plan caused the Civil War. And the plural founders, the leverage of them to force. No one had integrity. And that still is being shown to the kids. There's a collusion slash S that the presidents themselves, leaders of other countries, could not fathom. Oh, in short, portable nuclear weapons. In real life, I saw that somewhere reported, but they do fake news. And it is tied to recent where people shoot other people, and where the police shot someone reportedly holding a knife, like a bunch of shots, and killed the person for holding a knife. Which, in other words, there were murders too that have involvement. The difference of that too was issues too. They're forcing like one side or the other. While the difference of that was his collusions, all sides of criminal and civil cases, and interbranch and foreign at the same time with those same families and their sources, parents, campuses kept needing to hide the same sequence shifts, the same relative delusions too. You guys have delusions too, where you have criminally foreign influence, tactical delusions, raw premises treatments, fact treatment nature regarding American history, where you have replaced with James Madison had declassified details about how and why he and the plural founders wanted nothing to do with those crazy impositions against all women, against all Native Americans, sickly distinctly too, sickly distinctly against all difference slash S, and then further all against all human difference, and further as a method slash S, only allowing collusion slash S because the breaching method knew if it made a breach, everyone rolls with itself, it would be manifest as breaching method slash S demonstrated to everyone. What were those multi-front human rights abuses about a whole bunch of different subjects and names, but all at the same time about a human fact treatment nature breaching method, a predicate acts with facts delivery system method slash S, if you will. But so there are portable nuclear weapons. And this breaching method needed and needs things like the World Trade Center attack to keep people using words like diplomacy, peace, war, or in other words, policy, to as styles of logic, natures of logic, premises, treatments, fact treatments, nature, they need to value on unabridged constitution and premises, fact treatment, nature, and fact treatments that nature itself is using us like correlation. Anyone wants to deny that having black pupils, whites of eyes about relativity. There are two eyes across species bodies. There are two sexes across species bodies. Even bugs have an extent of consciousness that is shared with us in awareness. In other words, anyone wants to. Life is about relativity. You grew up knowing that math, it was given, value it doesn't have. Because everyone came through systems that never taught them the value of what unabridged Constitution is about. The value of Marbury versus Madison. Real justice must satisfy all appearances of real justice. There are and have been collusion slash S with the prisons and further with the state judicial branch offices and corrections offices. Used remotely for the same method that use all names on all sides of criminal and civil cases. The interbranch, as ones with all foreign, the same time, all the titles of victims advocates involved with overt criminal enterprises, private ones, criminally foreign influence, uses of databases, town offices, community center of Wethersfield, town offices further involved, Wethersfield Police Facebook page, their location, attaching kids to fake ties to themselves, and then as adults too. All kinds of falsified police reports, collusions with all kinds of natures of organized crimes, whole careers, retired police chiefs. But a whole bunch of nations are involved at the same time. You guys jump into people's conversations. You change and fake what they say when we speak about predicate acts with short words. Get me off the fake conversations with Channel 3 News because there are a whole bunch of people tied to them and next to them and conjunctive to them and to that. And you guys are forcing it spoken up here because you want to hide about your motivation. You want to pretend for privacy while you're sequence shifting. Same names involved with this are interstates, with the court next to the World Trade Center and world names at it, leading up to it in that context and since recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed how it motivated to self-value collusion slash S with the World Trade Center attack, even though they don't want it. You guys are sick evil. When it comes telling you, but that's I was just saying that because it's online. They're interbranch. They're forging and faking conversations and ties to me at interbranch locations since I was a kid. Their whole careers were kept criminally poor and influenced in their campuses. That's all recorded. Forgiveness is because worse was is maintaining that the outcome slash S. It is recorded that a Sandy Hook has a prison in Sandy Hook, Newtown, Connecticut. They're recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, leaking. They have collusion slash S with a whole bunch of people tied to Phil Cololo, retired Weathersfield police chiefs, locations associated with them, and people with Puerto Rico too involved with them, with the crime scenes too, and people names next to the body dumping spot of their serial killer in their prison, and they have roles, collusions, forcing a principal child abuser has something to do with their roles also with people from Puerto Rico and a whole bunch of people along Route 3 in conjunctions to it and to that, like the state judicial branch offices and the syntax and people associated with a Mr. Neville, who I never had a personal conversation with. They made me have a what do you call a summer school class is increasingly tied to people involved with threats to kill one of the people that was in the class. But regardless of the real world, saying by a Jerry Kerr. A Jerry Kerr is also brought. There's more than one Jerry Kerr. Also brought up by an officer Jerry Miller on Facebook. They have people confirm things to me on Facebook about body dumping spots and their roles next to it, with a Kevin Dillon and other people associated with it Dillon. Then they take my Facebook page. The Brit Superior Court has collusions with them and with the networks. And Bravo Network has rules with a police chief, Cintron, a bunch of people involved with him, with the corners of Elm Street and Weathersfield and Rocky Hill, with identity theft, fraud, all kinds of federal evidences crimes. Rules with UPS with people years apart, making confessions to me as strangers, trying to make big exceptions. As people involved with child abusers years apart. Time collusion slash S with that, murders, untimely deaths, body dumping spots brought up. More things were recorded and confirmed on Facebook than you guys can realize because these are people covering up too, putting fake things in databases to hide live progressions. Because this breaching method I shouldn't even have, it's not my obligation to tell you guys. You guys are interbranch locations. I tried to communicate with them there. See, these places are incapable of affording what science reveals by nature, let alone by nature and James Madison at the same time. They can't afford either of them, let alone at the same time, because it reveals means out of nowhere. It reveals what the breaching method shows them where they use words like legislation. Where they use facts, you guys need to be re-educated. And you need to repent. I shouldn't have to beg you to fix the fake conversations with WFSB, Channel 3 News with me. They also faked and changed conversations with me with everyone around me as collusions with people who did that since I was a kid. Behind my back at campuses too. Increasingly, people in the Britain Superior Court have roles with sexual medical offenders of kids. One's associated with planting evidences on Facebook too with Officer Jerry Miller, and people with the Facebook page, like a Joshua Schumack and his mother. I never went to a campus, but never saw them on a campus in my life. They plant evidence, also collusions with a Mike Pandolf, all sides of criminal and civil cases, depositions. His educators are recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. People from my grammar school didn't even go to my grammar school. Collusions with them with a former mayor, gold, other mayors, overt criminal enterprises and private ones. people all along Route 175 in conjunction to it and to that. And as people who gave depositions about their roles with the police, who did speak with the police, and they use that to sequence it, put fake nature's ties to me, make them hide their motivations years apart too. A bunch of people at Central Connecticut State University have roles with planting evidences here on my street with the foreign and domestic intelligence involved, including former director of the FBI, Robert Lusky, his co-defendants and their family members and their neighbors, collusion slash us with a whole bunch of people from other areas to plant evidences, as like one and confirmed on Facebook. Robert Rodriguez, who brought up the principal child abusers campus to me first. I caught them with that first. Parents forcing their kids to collusions with identity theft, fraud, slanders, and then collusions with the whiting forensics. A whole bunch of people with the name O'Neill as teachers in West Hartford have collusions also with their family members at the same time with overt criminal enterprises and private ones. You have little kids pretending passions, emotions, what they think about the guy on YouTube speaking with about their parents. They brought this up. They're sequence shifting. No, these are also people with them with a Phil Cololo involved interstates. For people tied to him who also recorded, confessed, demonstrate, confirmed there are people with the names Scalora and DeMoro also involved with the World Trade Center and the buildings next to it the night before in the morning of the World Trade Center attack. Both sides of that case, and the court's identity was used remotely too. Just like they could use, they already use countries' identities remotely. They have the breaching method showed you guys how to speak about American history regarding how the breaching method replaced with nature communicates, how it communicates with correlation by black people's whites of eyes, two eyes across species bodies. And what our founders communicated about this and why it's recorded, it's hyper evidentially recorded how they directed us to only refer to themselves, pretending we know any of their names. The only one name of them we know, plural, is James Madison. We're supposed to understand why and how there was a need for them and for them to keep their names unknown. Because there were all kinds of roles, needs, and natures that were not permitted to have any of those motivations and natures of people spoken the way they were. In other words, this breaching method, James Madison described that it made new people would resist, and then they would do that, and they would adapt to it. That's why he didn't force everyone. They didn't force everyone right up front. No slavery, or change the laws against women. Okay, we're going to sit back, and then we're going to deal with other countries. The other countries themselves were used remotely. There was a hyper forensic trail that keeps other things, others ourselves, like criminal foreign influences, framed wrongly until they're corrected more and more. For reasons hyper additional than the breaching method propagated, such only capable of being, while only permitted to be, overt criminal enterprises, private ones, etc. Terrorists, then America's founders were born. All that as the value of the suits and ties counters the exceptions of it. The root of it. Excuse me, thank you. Have a great night. Vaccine. In other words, people aren't, there are technological impositions. People want to speak about policies and business, leaving out how the breaching method's involved with that. Leaving out why they're using an expert. Well, I know more about nuclear than you. Even before Bakari's, I reported that. In other words, you get a portable nuclear weapon. You guys can't even afford to be honest and follow mandated law when someone mentions recorded World Trade Center predicate acts. The FBI and the CIA and all these other agencies told you 50,000 times they have to lie to you. They do lie to you. But then you want to go fishing over because they told me that. In other words, you guys are ignoring me. You're changing what people say, faking what they say. Well, you don't understand them. You understand what that means. Get me out for fake conversations about the World Trade Center attack. I was in the court next to it, not you guys. not the news that fake conversations with me about that. While I caught them forcing a principal child abuser and sick roles with the campuses and with Harvard Hospital. They have all kinds of medical corruption in intra cities, including with the military too, with WFSB Channel 3 News. And they're leaking this also through silence, interbranch are refusing to identify themselves legitimately with them. They have and have had further sexual and medical offenders of kids with the proven ones they forced. They have roles with Sandy Hook campuses, Newtown, Connecticut. This Channel 3 News. First, we have to deal with them. They have a whole bunch of other countries involved with them, too. And World Trade Center predicate acts. They should fear God to hide and plot. I rap a lot. Vaccines. I teach those things. Forgiveness is not to forgive up. Forgiveness slash hyper forgiveness. Don't leave out the breaching method. And don't leave out how the ground was designed. The suburbs were designed tactically denatured by a torture, extortion, slavery method against every single person to an extent. Otherwise, that body was sent and hurt and everyone around them. In other words, but and no one was even allowed to speak about building other outside of internationally monitored conversations where they were hurt. They even found out speaking about it outside the international monitored conversations, and still they wanted to build better and a better identity of ground, identity relationship to itself. Then before cars even too. Well, all that was upon them. Then we have now. We have been tactically denatured. The breaching method stayed entrenched. The suburbs look alike from America to Russia to Ukraine across the globe. The suburbs, the cities. This is a breaching method. It uses inherent active to and progressive to the names of the people, the sciences, the identities of integrity, guises of use slash s of calmness or of aggression, and then the nature of debate with that. Inherent to active to but progressive to the nature of debate slash s. You guys have criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions are off fact treating nature, quality aspects of nature. You guys have self-added, our founders' communications replaced and being and having been replaced. Why your value replaced, your value haven't been replaced. You're valuing how it was replaced. Everyone using the words of what people said, pretending it was legitimate, pretending they didn't realize every database was criminally foreign influence, tactically delusional. Recreations of reality, and or all the truths were used for lies. Tactically ulterior from the relativity slash hyper relativity of nature, of its complete identity and relationship to itself, and of the only increasing value of that. By and as itself, as all things, vaccines, even if things are made up like art, control each other. Control each mind, but free each other. Vaccines. I teach us things. So what to do? In other words, is pay attention. Then we can make a plan. If we start saying, okay, there's technology, no one really knows. In other words, they're going to have the experts speak on the economy. Expert can't speak on the economy and deal with exceptions like how the breaching method. Because they had campuses that replaced with James Madison communicated with the plural founders for that. And the nature of debate contains a whole bunch of people who pretend that our presidents were our founders. The only founder that we know was a president too. President slash chief, no, was James Madison. And we're supposed to pay attention to how and why. You guys are forcing in locations, areas, and states below every single leader. They have excuse slash s. The breaching method has been an excuse there here, but it's never used here and there because you guys help out when you guys fighting with each other. You guys debating when you guys are agreeing with each other. It's exactly the way the breaching method. You guys have to. It shows you need to hide the way you use words like forget about it. No, thank you. As they say, man, pray.